Supposedly, Iran just took delivery of new MiG-29 new to them, MiG-29 fighters from Russia. And Newsweek reported a shipment earlier this month, with officials in Tehran proudly declaring this would bolster the Air Force. A few things to start off. My thank you for your attention to this matter shirt is available on Bunker Branding. This is actually, I think, the best-selling shirt I've ever had. And, you know, it's my birthday today. It's the last day to donate to my friend Johnny Rogers, who delivers non-lethal aid to Ukraine. I turn 50 today. I know, believe it or not, I am 50. One interesting thing, we broke 50K in the non-lethal aid fundraiser, but we weren't able to get to 100K. What can I say? I'm not Jake Bro. He's way more handsome than me. So let's talk about Iran. Couple of issues with the whole statement about the MiG-29s. First off, Newsweek isn't a real news source anymore. Really, am I supposed to believe Iranian state news? But let's say it is true. Let's say that Iran did receive some MiG-29 fighters. Here's the problem. A handful of jets doesn't change the balance of power against Israel or the United States. Not even close. This kind of got me thinking, like, what would Iran actually need to cover its airspace? And I ran the numbers, did the math. That actually isn't a pun. I actually did the math, and the answer is not great for Iran. Iran's got one of the largest land areas in the world, about 1.65 million square kilometers, with thousands of kilometers of borders and coastline. And according to Forbes, Tehran isn't really likely to get a fleet upgrade from either Russia or China anytime soon. Sanctions, cash, politics all kind of get in the way. Also, both Russia and China are in a bad spot right now. Start with Russia. Russia's kind of playing Axis and allies here. You have a limited number of IPCs, right? You can use your labor and industrial capacity to manufacture jet fighters, or you can use it to build drones, or you can use it to build machine tools for your oil wells that are pumping oil to hold up your economy. Now, the MiG-29, it's a fourth-generation fighter, but it's really not that useful in Ukraine. It can't really carry the massive Fab 500 glide bombs that Russia is using to wreck Ukrainian industry. That's mainly done by the Su-34, which has essentially been the workhorse of this conflict, at least after the initial invasion. Russia is really holding at standoff ranges where they're dropping their glide bombs, or they're running Su-35 fighters with the R-37 long-range air-to-air missile. And just these Su-35s are flying in racetrack circles doing air superiority. And when they detect a Ukrainian fighter, they'll launch a couple of those R-37 missiles at the Ukrainian fighter, and hopefully the Ukrainian jet turns around and leaves. And so they're really not engaging head-to-head like you would use the MiG-29 for. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from that sense, the MiG-29 is available for export. You have plenty of them around, and you can deliver those out to Iran, at least ones that are still in good flying condition. Because remember, if you're producing parts for the Su-34, you're producing parts for the Su-35, that's fewer parts that might be available for the MiG-29. I know MiG and Sukhoi, or Mykon Gurgevich, I might be pronouncing that wrong, and Sukhoi are two different companies, two different design bureaus, but in the big aggregate, they're probably using the same subcontractors to manufacture parts, right? So there might be fewer parts available for a MiG-29 to actually do a sale or a lease to Iran. So essentially right now, since in Ukrainian airspace, if it flies, it dies. If you're Russia, why not lease or sell MiG-29s to Iran? Now, there's no numbers available as to how many of these fighters were actually shipped over to Iran, but I personally think it is certainly possible Russia could have leased the jets to Iran temporarily. Now, supposedly, this will be until Russia can produce enough Su-35s to fulfill the contract they signed with Iran in 2021. That particular contract was for 50 Su-35s, I believe, but Iran, they're never getting those jets. They're never getting those jets. Russia doesn't have the manufacturing capacity to manufacture them because they're pumping them out for their own missions in Russia, or Russia won't be a country anymore because it will economically collapse within most likely a couple of years if Russia's economy keeps going forward the way it does with inflation and such. So what about China? Maybe China could actually bolster Iran's jets. Maybe China could have done that 10 years ago. They could have sold Iran some J-10s, like the way they did with Pakistan. Kind of the issue here is that, why didn't they? And the answer to that is that Iran just doesn't have the cash, most likely, right? Iran doesn't have the cash to purchase jets from China. But also, if you look at China right now, every single aerospace engineer in China is laser focused on producing equipment for the invasion of Taiwan in 2027. So Iran kind of missed its window. They probably had an opportunity 10 years ago to buy Chinese jets, and they chose to just keep using proxies and militias as their force of foreign policy and kind of crossing their fingers that they would never actually get bombed by another country. Right now, most of Iran's jet fighter inventory, at least what remains, is Cold War era. F-14 Tomcats from the Shah, F-4s, F-5s, a smattering of MiG-29s, and we don't know how many Iranian jets that Israel destroyed during the 12-day war. That information just isn't available. And we also don't know how many Iranian jets were operational even before the 12-day war. So what would Iran need to cover its airspace? This is kind of the million-dollar question here. If Iran wants to keep just one fighter on station 24/7, you need 8 to 12 jets to cycle crews, handle maintenance, generate sorties. That's just basic force planning, right? For every one jet that's in the air, a third is on maintenance, a third is doing training. So using that kind of 8 to 12 rule, 1-8-12 rule, you're looking at 50 to 100 jets just for air policing. So minimum of 50 to 100 jets, maintaining 8 in the air for basic air sovereignty and interception. Let's crank this up. Let's talk about wartime. For a real, genuine, honest-to-God wartime defense, you need at least 6 sectors, 3 to 4 aircraft each. That's 20 airborne, 24/7. Multiply that out, you need between 170 to 210 jet fighters. And we haven't even accounted for attrition. If Tehran wanted full air dominance across all of its possible approaches, we're talking that Tehran needs at least 300 or so fighters. That's in the neighborhood of the United States or Israel. Iran just isn't there, not even close. They don't have the money. The idea of manufacturing up to 300 Su-35 jets, or even augmenting some of those with, let's say, 250 MiG-29s, it's laughable that Iran could afford that. And let's just do a thought exercise here, all right? Because I don't know what the heck this president is doing with foreign policy, but let's just spitball it. Let's say President Trump pulls a deal out of his ass with Iran and offers American fighters to Tehran, all right? So that means Tehran is now going to buy American fighters from the U.S. They'll fly the F-15, F-16. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. So let's just kind of go with it for this thought exercise. Right now, the F-16 is only being produced by four foreign countries. There's about, I think, 124 on back order. And there's 104 F-15EXs on back order. I think that Boeing is about to shut down, if they haven't already, the F-A-18 Super Hornet production line. And they're going to move those people to F-15EX production. So that option of selling Iran the F-18 Super Hornet is kind of off the table. And Lockheed Martin can only produce, I think it's 156 F-35 jets a year, and those are moved toward foreign sales. So just the thought exercise, what if Iran decided to buy 300 plus F-35s from the United States? It would take at least 2 years for the United States to give them all of those F-35s, or to sell them all those F-35s, and that would mean all the other countries would have to go to the back of the line for production. So just in a general sense, even the U.S. can produce maybe 300 or so jet fighters a year. In Russia's case, Su-34s, Su-35 are the main workhorses of Russia's fleet. Maybe Russia can produce 60 or so jets per year, roughly. Honestly, the smart thing for Iran to do would be to create its own loyal wingman. Right now, the United States has this idea, this concept called the loyal wingman, and that's where you take an unmanned jet flying with a manned jet as a controller. So these loyal wingmen might be stocked with sensors or perhaps weapon systems, and they act as bomb trucks. Iran is very good at like this simple homegrown drone tech, mainly because it has to be, right? It's under sanctions by essentially everybody, so it has to be good at home growing its own weapons and sensors. And this is why drones like the Shahed have been so amazing. It's because Iran has essentially been forced to figure out how to make small, cheap drones effective. And would it make sense for Iran to pour money into small, cheap drones that can be controlled by a single jet and act, or maybe even act as autonomous air vehicles? That actually would probably be a good idea. I think it's certainly within Iran's capability to create dogfighting, loyal wingmen that can connect up with some sort of data pod in manned F-4s or F-5s or some of the few remaining F-14s or even some of the least MiG-29s. I think that's certainly possible and would probably be the smart thing for Iran to do because they could probably get production up and running on that faster than they're going to get jets from anybody at this point. So, Iran has a lot of good engineers in their country. I certainly think it's within their capability to create something like this, and it would augment what little air defense they have left. So when Tehran kind of rolls out a few MiG-29s on TV, remember this, it looks good for domestic politics, but militarily it doesn't really fix their problem, which is they need to find 300 jets somewhere in the world, and all of the production capacity is essentially taken right now. And I think Iran is still betting its survival not on jet fighters, but on drones and asymmetric tools. So that's the math. There's a strategy. That's why these deliveries matter more to propaganda than as an actual true shift in Iranian capability. And you know what? Here is a special message from Johnny Rogers, who drives around Ukraine in a van giving out non-lethal aid. It's the last day, so please donate to Johnny if you have a couple of bucks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you guys do to support me. You make this possible. You help me help these guys. Thank you so much, Ryan Macbeth, for the shout out. You make this possible. Every little donation counts. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow me. Go to helpisonthewayua.com today. Do a donation. And follow Ryan, he's a great guy, and Ukrainian Relief Fund on Instagram. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini!
Heroям slava! My goal here is $100,000. You can donate at the link below. Every dollar helps.